Hey guys, my name is Nabil and we have a very cool thing that happened today. Crispy Kaiser, who is the community manager of SNK, has been doing these amazing streams lately where each episode he invites some of the SNK staff and talk about games that they worked on or just, you know, current games like Samurai Shodown and whatnot. And today was very special. First of all, we've seen quite a revival of the Garou Mark of the Wolf game thanks to the implementation of the awesome rollback netcode that happened about a couple weeks ago. And so the community again of Garou is really showing how strong it is. I mean, after all these years, and the game is amazing. We're gonna be spending some time with it very soon too. So in today's episode of his Kaiser Wave stream, he actually had both Yasuyuki Oda and Nobuyuki Koroki. Now, you know these names from recent games, right? I mean, Oda is the director of The King of Fighters 14 and Nobuyuki Koroki is the director of Samurai Shodown. But what you might not know is that these two guys actually worked on Garou Mark of the Wolves. In fact, Yasuyuki Oda was the director of the game, and Nobuyuki Koroki was an artist. And I don't think he was the lead artist. I think that was Ogura-san. But he was an artist and he worked on the characters and created some characters for the game. So they showed us some things that we have never seen before. Now the first thing, as you can see here, is an early design of Tizok, or the Griffin as they call him in Japan. And speaking of these name changes, they even mentioned the reason, well, not the reason, in Japan they call him the Griffin Mask, and that was kind of like a nod to many of the wrestlers that they have in Japan, kind of like Tiger Mask. You know, there's even a manga about Tiger Mask, so they always had that mask at the end of their name. This is what they had, Griffin, the Griffin Mask. In the US or outside of Japan, they call him Tizok, which is fine. We'll talk about some name changes later on. And he looks like the first design was not well received at all. I mean, he looked like this weird looking like hunched, almost muscular man, and they started talking about, you know, this big you know, like their love for these big characters. So they mentioned this thing where Oda actually made Franco Bash. Now Franco Bash from Fatal Fury 3, and he made this big muscular character in the game. So Koroki-san wanted to actually outdo him, and that's how they made Krauser a hulking beast in Real Bout Fatal Fury Special, which is really nice tidbit to know about the game. I love Real Bout Special, by the way, and I also love the Fatal Fury franchise, obviously. The second character they showed was Kevin, and Kevin was also completely different. I mean, just look at that. He looks like, kind of like, gives me like a Street Fighter Alpha vibe for some reason. You know, he had like spiky hair and really interesting, like completely different. They made him bigger, and he actually had a hand cannon, which is very similar to what Maxima ended up having in the King of Fighters 99, which is kind of show you how some design ideas just go from one character to another character, maybe in a different franchise. So yeah, looked completely different. And then, you know, like, we ended up with the policeman Kevin that we have now. The other character they mentioned is Freeman, who, as you can see here, looks again completely insanely different. Looks kind of like a Gentleman Troy kind of thing, you know, like a Mr. Big with claws. That's the first design, completely different. Then they went with the second one, which is, you know, a bit freaky kind of thing. Looks almost like Alien, you know, like something out of DC Comics or something. It was like bald, and but he then, you know, he kind of evolved when Ogura-san checked the current design and said, you know what, let's not work, and let me come up with something else, and that's how they ended up with Freeman that we have right now. Then they went and talked about my favorite Garou character, which is Gato. And his early design, they wanted him to kind of look like Genjuro, which, as you can see here, it pretty much looks like Genjuro in modern time, with like this flame tattoos on his arms. And then he started evolving a little bit to a bit of a mixture of Bruce Lee and Jet Li and Jackie Chan all mixed into one, and looks nothing like what we have him right now. He was also like a bit younger from what I can see in the sketch. And then he evolved again to the Gato that we love. Speaking of Gato, they went ahead and talked about his dad, Garou. Now, Garou was planned for Garou 2. They even had a sprite for him, and we'll talk about Garou 2 later on when they actually switch the topic and talk about Garou. And he was actually, supposed to be playable, and he actually ended up blinding his son, as we saw in the ending of Gato. And they started talking about Garou 2 again, and because there was a lot of rumors, they said the game was almost done. It was 80%, 70% and whatnot. They confirmed that it was far from done. It was about 50% done. I mean, they had some sprites, not all of them, not all, the gameplay was not implemented yet, but I mean, they had the sprite work was done for many characters from what I understood. So Gato was of course going to be blind in the second game, as we actually knew about this before. I'm not sure how. I mean, we kind of guessed from the ending in the first game where he met his dad and he actually blinded him. Next character they talked about is B. Janet, and how she looked like that. They went for this really like cute, like almost innocent looking character. Didn't really work because she was supposed to be a pirate. And then they went for another design, which is really cool. I love this design. It looks amazing. But what they said is that once they started implementing this design, into sprites, it just was too many details, like, things fusing with each other, just didn't look right in pixel art. So they went ahead with the design that we have right now. And the surprise of the day, Rock. Just look at that. He was completely different. I mean, even personality, but I don't get the same feeling when I see him that, or compare him to the current Rock Howard. Just going for that, like he has Terry's hat, is wearing those. It's completely. It looks like a skateboard or something. It just, wow, really, I was really surprised by this one. The second design they went for Rock was just completely out of the question, something you could never think of when now that you know how Rock looks. But this looks exactly like K-Dash to me. I think this is, like even with the cross necklace. So I'm pretty sure this is, the early design led to the creation of K-Dash. Now, there was this mangaka who worked at SNK at the time, and he had this leather jacket that he proposed to have Rock have that kind of jacket, and Kuroki-san loved the idea, and that's how we got the Rock that we have right now. But before that, we even had more, versions, like this one with this ridiculous hair that kind of looks like from mangas of the 80s and 90s. And then this weird, crazy design, cowboy. It was a cowboy Rock. This is, of all the designs we saw today, I think this one was the worst. And luckily they did not go with that. Then they switched to Grant, and Grant's first version looked like it's out of a JoJo manga, like with the stone-looking mask or head. And Ogura again took the Kuroki version and said, let me make something out of it. And that's how, we had the current version of Grant. Hotaru's original name was actually Ayumi. That's something cool that we knew today. And she was a little bit older, but they wanted to make her more of like a cute character, cuter than, this early version that they had. And that's how we ended up with Hotaru. And then the final design they showed was of Kane. Now, Kane is, of course, the boss character of Garou Mark of the Wolves. And he had this armor, kind of like, for me, they didn't say that, but it felt like a, like there was a bit of a Krauser vibe, really. Like a, younger Krauser, kind of looks like maybe, I don't know if they were going with that or not. But he kind of looked like a knight too. And then they decided to make him a little bit slender and you know, like more modern looking, and that's how Cain was made. Now these are all the, you know, what we've seen from Garou Mark of the Wolves 1, but then they started talking about Garou Mark of the Wolves 2, and they started showing concept arts of characters like this guy here, this androgynous looking male that is confirmed is a male. It's supposed to be the butler of Cain, and this is the early design. The second design, which we can see here in the sprite of the game, is actually they changed him into a boxer, and they did this change once they went to pixel art. The other character they showed is Joe Higashi's apprentice. It's this girl right here, and she plays, you know, she actually she's a Muay Thai fighter, but she's always sleepy, and it's like she always wants to sleep, and it's the same kind of like the same concept of Mei Ten-kun from King of Fighters 14. So that's where they probably had this idea for a while, and they ended up doing that with Mei Ten-kun in KOF 14. She didn't have a name. There was a sprite for her, as you can see here. And then they went back and talked about something cool, which is Marco Rodriguez in 3D, and as you might know him as Kushnud Butt in 3D. There's a lot of jokes about 3D butt, you know. But anyway, this was Kuroki-san practicing some 3D back in the 90s. He kind of looks really cool for the 90s, by the way. And this was a design that he did for the now defunct Neo Geo Freak magazine. Now, you know, then they started talking about the name change, which is, like, it boggles my mind because, you know, it's kind of weird. I mean, the character was named Marco Rodriguez, but then SNK of America, when the game was released outside of Japan, they decided to rename him to Kushnud Butt. I have no idea why. They don't even know why. And he went ahead and asked the user, or the, you know, people who were watching the stream, if we're gonna have this character again in another game or in a sequel to Garou, what name should we go with? Should we stick with Marco, or should we go with Kushnud Butt? And everybody was like, Marco. So it's kind of like he said, okay, well, Marco it is. Then at the end they're like, well, okay, we'll see. But it kind of looks like if we have this character again, it's gonna be Marco Rodriguez, as he should be. And then still talking about Garou 2, they kind of talked about the plan they had for Garou 2. They said when they were making the first Garou, they always intended to have a sequel. So that's why pretty much all the endings were actually cliffhangers, and it was supposed to be adding more characters. As you see here, these are the new characters they were gonna add, as well as new powers. Rock was supposed to have a new move that he learned from Cain, because at the end of in his ending, he actually went with Cain, who was supposed to tell him about his mother, and he's kind of like gets this, you know, he learns something from him, which is really, really cool. Then Crispy Kaiser asked if Gato or Janet can be in KOF, and Oda-san said all characters from SNK can be in the King of Fighters games, so it's not really impossible. They also talked about the why. I mean, Garou is of course a sequel to Fatal Fury series, and the Fatal Fury series is known for this 3D plane where you actually can go into into the background or foreground. And they said, why was that removed in Garou? And their answer was kind of interesting. They said because it was not unique. It was two things. It's not unique anymore. You know, when they were doing this back in the early 90s, there was, you know, no game was doing that. There was always one plane of fighting. But then at the time of Garou, there was Tekken and Virtua Fighter, you know, like really 3D, full 3D fighting games. So it was not really going for plane to plane. Just it was gonna be kind of lame, and it's not original anymore. And also they felt that it actually stops the action, because there's like a combo or something, and then the opponent goes to the other plane and just stops everything. So they decided to just, you know what, let that go and just focus on one plane. And I'm glad they did that. I was never a fan of those plane changing. And the real question of the day is, are we getting Garou 2? Are there any plans for it? And their answer was kind of vague and a bit optimistic. They said, Kuroki said, as long as he works for SNK, he's gonna be trying to push for Garou 2, and he's planning to have Garou 2 released before he actually retires. Then they said we will have a Garou 2 released in the next 10 to 15 years. I know that's a lot, but it kind of showed that they're actually planning something. But I mean, even if they were really working on it, they're not gonna go ahead and say it like that. So, but from what I'm hearing, there is no like immediate plans of having Gato 2, but it is gonna happen. And then the big question that Oda-san asked at the beginning of the stream, then he asked it again: what do you guys think of the netcode rollback netcode that was implemented in Garou Mark of the Wolves? And this is really cool to see a game producer of this magnitude come on stream and ask people, what do you guys think about the netcode? I mean, this is really insane. And of course, everybody was like really happy because again, the netcode we have now for Garou Mark of the Wolves is amazing, and a lot of people were saying we should implement that for King of Fighters 2002 and UM and 98, etc, and even Samurai Showdown or KOF 15. So we'll see how that goes. But that's pretty much it. Again, this stream is amazingly informative, and these streams, you guys gotta go and check Kaiser Wave streams. It's from Crispy Kaiser, the community manager of SNK, and his streams are really interesting as he again talks to SNK employees and people that like worked on the games that we love, and tell us how they made these games, or like give us some insights and really cool things. You definitely should check it out. Link is in the description below. Now that's pretty much it. Again, if you have not checked Garou Mark of the Wolves yet, you should go ahead and check it. Pretty cool game, pretty awesome netcode. Now I hope you guys liked this video. Until next time, thank you for watching.